Hey friends, welcome to The Hook with Sarah Larsen. I am your host, Sarah Larsen, and I have a very special guest today, someone that I am getting to know but have really enjoyed the conversations that we've had so far. I'm very excited to have her as a guest today. Salina Beasley with About Face is here to join us for today's conversation. Welcome, Salina.
Hey, Sarah.
Thank you so much for being here. I am excited because I know a lot of your story, but I'm sure I don't know everything. And I know that we're going to have a great conversation to sort of tease some of that out. But if you would tell us what it is that you do now, what's About Face? What do you have going on at this time? Where are you today?
Sure. Well, today I live right outside of Atlanta, Georgia, and I teach entrepreneurs how to do their own makeup like a professional so they can show up as the face of their brand, looking the part of their success. So I am a makeup coach, and the About Face came about in 2020 when we were all just sort of in lockdown and wondering, okay, what do we do with ourselves? And so though the work that I do is really about your physical face, About Face was really a point in my life where I had to be intentional about pivoting and going a different direction. And so it sort of has a little bit of a double meaning there.
I love that. That is exactly what I was thinking as you were describing what was going on. You did an About Face.
You did an About Face, and it's all about your face.
I love that. That's beautiful. Well, tell us a little bit about your history. Did you grow up in Atlanta? Where was that?
No, I grew up in Central Florida. I was in Disney World's backyard. And so as a child, my passion was acting and singing and modeling. And so I had the opportunity to work with Nickelodeon Studios, and I was a child actress and model. And being in Central Florida was actually pretty ideal setting to be able to explore those passions. So I've been wearing makeup since I was, very young. But if an artist did not do it for the camera, I didn't really know how to do it for myself. And when I became an adult, my first career, I was a touring singer. And so once again, other people are doing my makeup other than me. When 2020 came around, and I thought, you know what, now's the time to learn how to do this, how to look presentable on camera, how to look presentable on stage, without, someone else putting the look together for me.
So did you have siblings growing up?
Yes, I have one sister, adopted sister. She's my favorite childhood memory was going and picking her up from Honolulu, Hawaii when I was 6. So I have one sister, and I said I was never going to have children. Children were never in the picture. And now the girl who was not going to have children has 4 children ranging ages 5 to 14 this week.
Congratulations. That's a lot, especially, with all of that, with all of the kids and running a career. That's got to be a handful.
Got a few things going on.
What did your parents do? Like you have, you said that you started out as a touring singer. So once you got out of high school and such, did that come from your parents, or was that just your natural talent that you were cultivating as you were growing up?
Well, my mother was a homemaker, and she was really good at it. She was so creative, but she was a stay-at-home mom and just embodied the domestic CEO. She played that role beautifully. The performer in me definitely comes from my father. From the time I was very young, my dad had me up on a platform. I mean, if it was a park bench, if it was just some elevated surface, he would say, "Sing for daddy," or "Tell a joke," or he was always throwing me up on the platform. My family makes fun of me for this. mercilessly. If there was a window display, like the mannequins with their poses, and he would say, go pose for daddy, go pose for daddy. And he would stick me in the window with the mannequins. And I'm like 5 years old, doing this bit. And people would walk by and they would laugh. But this was so normal to me. It was very normal to be vocal and visible and hosting an audience. It was so then when I transitioned into acting and modeling, I never had stage fright. I never had camera, angst about the camera being on me. This was just like a part of my DNA.
I love that story. Well, one of the things that really interests me are the disruptions that we experience in our lives that create the person that we are today. Whether that's a career disruption, doing something you didn't plan to do, or, oh, I had a child at a time that I didn't really plan to have a child. I've had a number of career disruptions through my life. 2 of those were combined with divorce. So those situations definitely shape where we are today.
Yeah.
Tell me about your career, how you got into becoming a touring singer. Yeah. How that happened.
So when you said disruption, I can pinpoint the first disruption happened in my childhood, right at the turn of, I was 12 years old. And one day my father left for work. He was an entrepreneur, very successful financial planner. He did estate planning. He dealt with insurance and investments. And Orlando, the town that we were in, rather small town, and he was on the radio. Everybody knew his name in our town. And he left for work one day, and we saw him on the 5 o'clock news that night, being hauled off by the authorities because he was running a very lucrative business. He was doing it dishonestly. And yeah, so he was charged with fraud and racketeering, and it triggered something in me in that moment, walking through that very public shame. It was his shame, but I was on the fringe, as his child, and cameras and news footage over our house, our home, like my childhood home, is on the news, and it's being backdropped against this theft crime, and look how this family's been living. And as a child, I went from this very, like, the girl who was posing with the mannequins and who was not afraid of a stage or a camera to I shrunk. I just went into I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be heard. I am fine to fade in the background. I never want to be in front of another camera. And I just went from this carefree, fearless sort of dreams of being a triple threat to how can I fade into the back? I just kind of faded away, honestly.
You said you shrunk in, kind of shrunk into yourself and sort of closed off from that spotlight, really.
Yeah.
I remember you saying in one of your Instagram lives that you were referred to as the loud family.
Oh my God.
At one point, I love that description. But how must that, I can't even imagine how what you describe of being your home is on the news, or perhaps news outlets hanging outside your home and disrupting your life even further. How did that affect your teen years? I mean, you were at that transitional age of the tween years heading into the teens, and that can really be a tough time.
Well, but the gifts that are inside of us and the passions and the drives, even though we have these disruptions, those gifts never really die, and those passions, they may be buried so deep that you think it must be dead, but those things never really go away. But I took all of that passion and that energy and that desire to tell a story in the spotlight, and I channeled it into songwriting.
Mm.
Writing sort of became my creative outlet, and that was a very behind the scenes role. So I really started to develop that craft as I was in my teenage years. As a teenager, seeing my mother go from this, like, she was just built to be a wife and a mom and a homemaker, and to see her go from that to she's a single mom. We were on food stamps. She's, working 60 hours a week just to try to, take care of us, and we're going to visit my father in prison on the weekends. I didn't want to cause her any more trouble than she was already experiencing.
Yeah.
So I just sort of became a very introspective, writing was my passion and my outlet. When I went to college, I knew that I wanted to serve. It's like, I want to serve people. I want to help people. I declared my major as psychology. I lasted one semester of general psych, and I thought, I cannot, if I have to listen to people, no, if I have to listen to people's problems the rest of my life, I'm going to be in a hole in the fetal position, somewhere. So I changed my major, decided, you know what, I'm going to go into composition, music composition. I needed to make that choice at the time, but, looking back, maybe this wasn't the most, they're not lining up at your door when you graduate with a degree in music literature to hire you. So it wasn't the most, I wasn't thinking lucrative, earning power with my music literature degree. But I knew that I loved music, and I would have been content forever writing music, writing for other people who are out front, people who are the front of stage. Put me in the background. I will write your songs all day long. But I could sing. I was able to sing. And I kept getting invitations to be a background singer. And I was like, okay, if I don't have to be in the front, if I can just be in the background, I'll do that. That's totally fine. But I would still, even as a background singer, I would get off the stage after whatever the event was. I'd get off the stage and I would just cry. I would just want to hide. I didn't want to go to any after parties. I didn't want to sign anything. I didn't want to see anybody. I just wanted to just shrink away and hide, because I so much would have rather been the girl in the background. But like I said, those things never really quite die. They never completely fade away. And I kept getting drawn out and drawn out. Will you sing for this? Will you come record for this? And I'm like, well, I'm in a booth. Nobody's really seeing me. Sure, why not? So by the time I was in my early 20s and I had sung for a few bands, I'd sung on a few records, it was either work an administrative job. I was in a cubicle the first year and a half, 2 years after I graduated. And I was like, I'm going to lose my mind, because I'm creative. It's just, as a creative personality, a cubicle for me, it felt so confining. And I was like, well, I don't like sitting in a cubicle more than I don't like being on stage. So let's be on stage. Let's do this. And so I really, honestly, Sarah, had to really dig back into my early childhood actress days. And I was like, okay, I am just acting. I am playing a role. I am playing a part. This is not me, because inside I was dying. I was like, I do not want to be visible here. But I really didn't want to be working in an office. That was sort of the deciding factor for me. I'm going to do this. I'm going to put myself out there as a touring singer. And I sang. Whoever hired me to sing, if it was picking up a tour or doing a wedding or doing a jingle, I was like, sure, I'm your girl. I am your girl. I will sing for you, because I don't want to be in an office.
I can see where that would be the defining factor in which direction you go. So how did you meet your husband?
We just celebrated 17 years of marriage yesterday, by the way.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we still really, really like each other. We met because he's a guitarist. He was touring with a couple bands in Nashville. I was living in Atlanta, And he kept getting called to play. We kept getting booked for the same event. I would get booked to sing and he would get booked to play. And after about 3 or 4 of these, like, oh, hey, it's you again, we just hit it off, and we got married 3 months after our first date. Just pretty intense. Yeah, we look at each other now, we're like, I'm glad that worked out. Like, wow, this is insane. But the timing, again, looking back, we could not, we were not smart enough to plan that, knowing what was what was coming up. So after we got married, we put ourselves out there as a package deal. I was the singer, he was the guitarist. So for the first 3-4 years of our marriage, we were on the road together, and he was in the back line, I was the background singer. And it just worked because we got to travel together. And so we sort of did things backwards. We got married and then we got to know each other. And we thought, oh my gosh, this is the life. Like, we're together, we're making a living doing something that we love, we're working together. This is awesome. Let's never stop. Meaning, let's never have children.
Right.
Or at least implying that. And this segues into the second sort of major career disruption. We were invited to go on an Asian tour with the biggest headliner we've been invited to partner with. Super exciting. This was like, wow, this is the biggest opportunity we have ever had. The first night of the tour, we were in Seoul, Korea at the Olympic Stadium. There were, just, thousands of people coming out for this show. Super exciting. I'm in rehearsal, and as a singer, you wear in-ear monitors so you can hear the band over the crowd, so that you can kind of hear your own voice. Otherwise, it's very difficult to hear it over the noise of the instruments. I put my in-ear monitors in. I've done that 1,000 times. This is nothing new. Took them out at the end of rehearsal, and my hearing in my left ear was gone. It was like a light switch. There at the beginning of a rehearsal, gone after the rehearsal. I had never traveled that far, so I thought, well, maybe it was the flight. Maybe I don't know, maybe I just have a cold, or maybe well, next thing I know, I find myself in a university hospital in Seoul, Korea. I've been diagnosed with sudden deafness. Did not know that this was a thing. That literally your hearing can be there one moment and gone the next. And they are treating me. I spent 2 weeks in a Korean hospital. My husband and I had only been married like less than 2 years at the time. And they did everything they could to try to restore my hearing. Because as a singer, not only do you need to be able to hear or to sing, but you have got to be able to hear. And I had lost all tonal direction. I couldn't tell where tones were coming from. I actually was very, very blessed, because in studying about this, people who experience sudden deafness can lose the ability to match pitch. And that would have ended my career right there if I was not able to do that. However, when you are sitting in a hospital room with the only English speaker is your significant other, and all the television channels are in Korean, and it was 2 weeks of us kind of looking at each other going, okay, we didn't expect this. We did not see this coming. This was the biggest. We thought that this was going to catapult our career into giving us platforms that we had yet to grace. And instead, it very, very real possibility that this ends here. So over the course of those 2 weeks, we really started to we grieved, I grieved. That was just, I didn't realize that over the course of my first career, how much my identity had been integrated into what I do. And I did not internalize that I am not what I do. I am not the sum of what I can produce. I really had to face with, if I cannot sing anymore, what else do I do? Like, what else can I contribute? How can I qualify my worth on this planet if I cannot sing? And it was, in hindsight, and this hearing is still gone. They were not able to recover it.
Okay, I was going to ask that.
And there's been, talk of, oh, well, maybe there are technologies advanced, or, maybe there's a surgery, or maybe, but can I tell you, this is a reminder for me when I have to compensate, with where I'm sitting in a room, or, I have to lean in to really listen to somebody. This is a reminder to me of, that was a season and a point in my life where I could have let my inability to do what I knew how to do define me. And I could have let it just throw me into just complete dysregulation. And instead, it's a reminder of, no, you're going to get through this. There is more than you can imagine on the other side of this. You are capable. You have gifts and talents you don't even know, because you have yet to access them. It's a reminder that no matter what I put my hands to, that does not define who I am. So we started having these conversations about, what if we don't do this forever? What if we came off the road? What if, what would we do? And it was the first time we flirted with the idea of having children and raising a family, playing music locally, or teaching, or, we just kind of started a brainstorm. And that seed then became a desire, as oftentimes that happens. And we officially came off the road when I had my first child. That marked the end of that career. I was so grateful that I had sort of had that opportunity to do some of that internal work before I had my first child. I think having a child and going from touring and travel and the lights and the stage to, I'm a mom, I'm a stay-at-home mom raising a small human. I think I'm grateful that I had this sort of segue window for going, okay, let's sort of look outside of what we think the rest of our life is going to look like and consider the possibilities. And out of that came my 4 beautiful children.
Wow. So here's what comes to mind. You had this major identity shift after losing that hearing.
Yeah.
Had to consider some other options. What is it? Because I think that a lot of people face disruption and have a different reaction, different response, that sends them to the depths of despair, perhaps, or at least, the very least, their self-confidence is truly shaken.
Yeah.
You had that time, and obviously a supportive husband, that's tremendous in and of itself. When you say, like, thankfully you had that ramp up time to go, rather than going straight from this, I'm a performer, to I'm a mom, and this is my life now.
Yeah.
What would you say was the key thing that you did? Like, what did you do? Or was it just simply having those conversations with your husband to talk through what the future could look like? What would you say was the thing that got you through that?
What got me through the transition?
Mm-hmm.
That is a great question. Once that seed of possibility is planted, of like, okay, I don't know I do not know what the outcome of this thing is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
This could be a total flop. Like, this could just totally backfire on us. But once the seed of that idea is planted, and we came home from Korea with, really, really treasured it. We actually ended up treasuring that time. It expanded our awareness. But I think then we have a responsibility, once that seed is planted, to nurture it and to see what sort of life it is to produce. And not every seed that is planted in our awareness or in conversation is meant to come to fruition and fulfillment. Not everyone. I think that there is a point where you have to do the work of introspection. You have to do the work of really internalizing the idea, getting a vision for the idea. This does not have to happen immediately. When you're grieving, when a disruption hits, because they do, as we know,
we all face them.
when disruptions happen, because they do, you have to allow yourself a season of an undetermined amount of time to grieve, to really feel that thing fully. And when I want to make sure that we don't gloss over that to get to, oh, how do we nurture the seed of possibility?
Mhm.
You kind of want to put that on the shelf and know, okay, there is life after disruption. Walking through the shame and the humiliation and the abrupt shift of my childhood, I told myself the story, you know what, you made it through that, you'll make it through this. Somewhere along the line, there was you're going to get through this. You need to grieve this. You need to feel this, because if you don't do the work of processing that disruption, it doesn't just dissipate. It doesn't just disappear. It will come back, and it will impact your trajectory. It'll impact your relationships. And so grieve, go through that grieving process, go through it with people who you can trust, with wise counselors. I think there's a way to grieve well, but you have to grieve. And then eventually, and there's no set amount of time, for any one person to just, okay, now your grieving is over, it's time to move on. I think that the part of that will always linger. Just like my hearing loss, it's not gone anywhere. It's still there. Still have to contend for that every single day. But I made it through it. And now, what are the possibilities? Then we get to sort of nurture that seed. And I think that with that comes a lot of self-awareness, of knowing, of doing the work of self-awareness, of, okay, what am I passionate about? What lights me up? What gets me, excited? Where am I strong? Where am I weak? And just really beginning to do that work. And I think eventually accepting that the trajectory that, in our minds was a straight line path to success is actually, in fact, very twisty and gritty. But those gifts and those passions and those desires that maybe it looked like, oh, well, I guess that's dead, I guess that's done. They keep on showing up in that next season. After I became a mom and went through very severe postpartum depression, which is another layer to that onion.
Sure. Is that with all of them?
So I have 3 boys and 1 girl.
Okay.
It's interesting because there are studies being done about the sex of the baby, how it impacts mom in terms of depression. Very interesting. So no, just with my boys, and it got worse with each pregnancy. And so, having to go, okay, you know what, this is part of my story now. Like, I was not planning this. I did not ask for this. I do not see how this can be helpful, or how I'm going to emerge from this with desires, passions, sanity intact. But, and I think, Sarah, too, having conversations like this and having people in your life that remind you, or that bring that story out of you and go, look what you've been through.
Right.
Look how you've made it through. And the passions and desires that, again, when I made it through the depression, I started writing. I started a blog. I started songwriting again. I just started to work those muscles that sort of just lay dormant. And so I do encourage anyone who is walking through grief or walking through transition or disruption to, okay, let's go back to what are those things that are innate in you, that you love, that you enjoy, that bring you joy, and let's get back in touch with those things. And then that's part of your healing process. But it's also part of the discovery process to get to okay, well, what's next? What's the possibility on the other side of this?
You've obviously done a fair amount of internal work here with all of these things that you've been through to be able to, speak so clearly to those steps. I made some notes to myself because I really do enjoy this, and just that, what is the possibility, and taking the time to grieve. There's absolutely a grief when you lose an identity.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a death. That's
It's a death
to you.
Mm-hmm.
So taking the time to grieve is really, really important. And there is life after the after the disruption and through the transition, all of that.
There is. And I think just to kind of hopefully kind of tie a bow on that idea, I think the people that we choose to surround ourselves with are our family, or what I like to call our chosen family, you know, people that
Mhm.
you invite into your inner circle, and it's a small space. I mean, if we're doing good if we have like one or two people in that space, holding tight to those relationships and allowing those people, giving them license to speak into your life is important.
Yeah.
And honestly, keeping your sense of humor is really, really, really important. And my husband and I both, you know, we've walked through seasons of, you know, whether it was my depression or loss or transition, and we would go to a therapist. I highly recommend therapy.
Okay.
But our like, self-medication was comedy. We would listen to comedians or turn on SNL reruns or something. And I got to tell you, laughter is good for the soul. It is not good to do around somebody who is grieving and who is not in the mood to laugh. But even if you can kind of force yourself to just, you know, let's bring some levity to this. Otherwise, you know, he and I say to each other all the time, we laugh to keep from crying.
Right. And sometimes you just have to do that. I know my husband and I, throughout the years of pandemic, revisited like old comfort shows, right? We started watching Big Bang Theory because I'd seen the first couple of episodes, or first couple of seasons, I mean, and then had not seen the rest. I didn't even realize how many seasons. It took us almost 2 years, but we just finished it. And
Wow.
having that time, I really just could not watch serious, depressing stuff. We had serious, depressing stuff going on in the world. I needed some
Uh-huh.
escape from that. That was a somewhat healthy escape to
Thank
laugh
you.
together.
It's a healthy
A
escape. I think
healthy escape.
we can think of a lot of unhealthy escapes.
Yes, and I've done those too. So,
Right?
so
Right? We all
it's good
have.
to find the ones that are healthy, and that's really, really important. I love that you brought that up. Just being able to laugh together, being able to have that sense of humor.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Never lose your sense of humor. I think that's one of the bridges to getting to the other side of a life disruption, which I love that you know, I've used that term actually a few times since you and I've talked.
Sometimes a disruption can still be a disruption, but be a good thing. Like a good disruption, like a pregnancy is exciting. That's
Yeah.
a new thing that's coming into your life, but still disrupts your life, and you still may have a difficult transition
Oh yeah.
moving into that.
Yes. And we have to have grace for ourselves and grace for each other as we are making that transition, because nobody nails. I think having grace for people's capacity to deal with change and your own capacity to deal with change is pretty key. It's pretty important.
It is. It is. And it actually just reminds me that, you know, my husband is going through a job transition right now. He just moved into a new role that is a good thing for him. But me, the transition that I'm going through by launching a new business, launching a new podcast, has
Yes.
been a big transition for him too, because it's a disruption for him. I'm doing
Uh-huh.
something completely different and not what he was anticipating that I was going to do. And so,
Uh-huh.
yeah, just a reminder that we need to have grace for the people in our lives
Yeah.
that are also experiencing that disruption
Yes.
that
Right.
I caused a disruption for him. That's something I need to think on
Oh,
and
that is,
give him a little more
yeah.
grace.
Oh, absolutely. No, wow, Sarah, I feel like we could talk like another hour and a half on that topic alone, like how
Yeah.
to help the people that are closest to you navigate the disruptions of your life.
Yes.
Wow.
Well, I mean, it's why I ended up, I'm sure, in 2 divorces in combination with a job disruption, with a career
Ah,
disruption, because the person that I was with was not prepared for that. And my
ooh,
reaction for it did not allow
ah,
me the time to grieve. Um, and my second husband went through a job a career disruption shortly after my big one that did not help us any, because when he did not support me through mine, I couldn't support him through his. And so
Yeah.
it was just a train wreck.
Sure.
That
Oh,
one sent me way off the rails. So yeah, yes, something that we need to teach and talk about is how to help navigate somebody else's disruption.
oh, absolutely. Right?
Like
That the wheels are turning.
yeah, yeah, it really is, because I have been truly thinking of disruption in terms of what it does to me, right? A little self-absorbed in that sense of, because it's happening to you, it's all about me.
Yes.
And I do, there have been times when I've thought about that, where I have friends whose family member is going through cancer or something like that, where
Mhm.
you're very concerned about the family member. Oh, how is so and so doing? But sometimes
Right.
you forget that that person, your friend, is also going through a massive disruption and needs the support. So asking, how are you doing with all of
Mhm.
this, is something that I have actually started asking friends that are
Mhm.
going through that. Well, what do you
Mhm.
need?
Right. Right. What do you need? And
Yeah.
that is such a gift that you can give to somebody. It's just asking them, what do you need? And not trying to counsel them out of their, wherever they are on their point of grief, on the journey, or not, but just to listen and just, what do you need? I think that it's a little easier when it's a friend,
Yes.
um, and because there's still that degree of separation of this is happening in their life. When it's a partner,
Right.
it's
That's a completely different
this is
situation.
happening in our life, and you're going to have reactions to either whatever's going on. If it's take a job loss, for example, that impacts
Yeah.
both, and that
Right.
impacts the emotions of both. And I feel like it's nice when you're walking through something, and I picture like a seesaw, and okay, he's going through something, I'm going through something,
Right.
okay, I'm up, he's down, I'm up. But the time will come when that disruption, you're both on
Yes.
the rock bottom, by your rock bottom. So you can either try to get what you need from the other, and they're an empty cup. What do you do in that situation? It's easier said than done. It's easier to
Right.
talk about, when you're not both at the bottom, at the bottom looking up. Again, it kind of goes back to those bridges. Like, where can we? Okay, you know what? If all we could do is connect on the level of humor, if all we could do to be in the same room with each other is sit and watch Big Bang,
Yeah.
fine. Like,
Right. Right.
there's this survival. Sometimes you go into survival mode. And so finding those healthy life vests, you have to do
Yeah.
that.
Oh my gosh. Woo. Look at us just exploring all kinds of
Wow, I know.
deep topics today. Um, I appreciate, it's one of the things I love about you, that we've been able to have those conversations, having
Yeah.
only known each other for a month or so. In the few times that we've spoken before this, I knew
Yeah.
that we had a good connection. Uh,
Yes.
Certainly understanding of those challenging times in our lives
Ugh.
that affect where we are today.
Yeah. Yes. It made us who we are and are making us into who we're becoming.
Yes,
That's a beautiful thing.
it is. It is. So let's depart from the very, very serious discussion for some time before I let you go. Tell us what you are doing in your new business. So before pandemic and you decided to do About Face,
Mhm.
you were still writing songs. You were a blogger, still writing songs, still writing
Uh-huh.
music.
I'm
Okay.
music
And
coordinator.
so, yeah, let's talk about that transition.
Sure. The job that I got paid to do was I was doing band coordination, music coordination. I was working part-time because I inherited this from my mother. I love being at home with my kids. I am the biggest kid when they're out of school for the summer. I love it. So I was just taking whatever contract, job I was editing. I was doing some ghost writing, whatever. It didn't matter. As long as I could stay home with my babies. Well, what I was doing the most was coordinating music and bands, and then there were no live performances. So I, like so much of the world, was like, I guess this is why people have hobbies. Let's take up a hobby. So I literally started like baking my feelings. Like I was in the kitchen every day baking.
I was just going to ask you, how many loaves of bread did you bake?
Oh my gosh. I baked a new loaf of bread every single day. My husband begged me. He's like, Salina, they're going to have to grease the doors to get us out of here if you do not stop baking. But I was just like, again, I'm a creative. I got to have my hands in something. And what do I do with myself, my life? I actually, for a very, I've never told anybody this.
Oh, I love it. The secrets are coming out.
It's a total secret. I have an entrepreneurial mind like my dad. And so for a split second, I thought, I'm going to start my own cooking show called Cooking with COVID. And it'll just be me in my kitchen cooking. I gave it some thought. But he was like, Selena, we got to stop doing this. I was like, okay. So, again, being a performing artist for so many years, if somebody else didn't do my makeup for me, I either didn't wear it underneath stage lights and camera, did not wear it, maybe can get away with that in your early 20s, not so much in your late 30s, early 40s and beyond. You really can't get away with that. I either didn't wear it or I just didn't wear it well. So I was like, you know what? It's either learn how to do this or take up adult coloring. And so I did. I started learning how to apply my makeup like a professional would. And so my kids would laugh at me because I went from wearing no makeup to like, I come out of my room with these like red lips and they're like, Mom, nobody's going anywhere. What are you doing? I started to teach myself. And then I started to ask my girlfriends if they would come on a Zoom call, because all of us are Zooming our life away at this point, so they would come on a call and I would practice my technique. They'd be on the other side of the camera doing their makeup and I would be giving lessons, and they were awful in the beginning. I mean, totally backwards. I had no idea what I was talking about, but it was fun and it was an outlet. Did I ever think I would make a career out of this? No. But one thing I began to really notice, because I had the opportunity to be in front of more and more women and kind of guiding them through this, the technique and the process and how to match their color and how to create symmetry with their face. And it was all very, nuanced and fun. But I began to see, as I was connecting with more and more women, especially through the camera, yes, we were in the middle of a pandemic, but I really was observing just this chronic lack of confidence in the women that I was connecting with. And, when you are looking someone in the face, like we are, and especially through a camera, we were not equipped to process this type of relating to one another before the pandemic. I read an article when the pandemic first started and everybody was Zooming and video chatting, the impact that it was having on our brain, it was almost the same as if we walked into an elevator and instead of facing the elevator door, we faced everybody else in the elevator. There was something awkward, like, this is backwards. Something's not right about this, because we've never been in a place where we've had that. I'm looking at you, but I'm finding that I'm looking at my own face as well, which is so not intuitive to the art of conversation as we have known it. I have no idea what it's going to make of the next generation coming up, where this is so normal. Yeah. But for us, this did not become something our brains had to process until the pandemic. So I began to see this crisis of confidence. I think I wrote something about it.
Absolutely.
Actually.
Yeah.
But I started to notice this crisis of confidence, and seeing especially women who maybe they had successful careers, or they had realized they were on an upward trajectory in their career path. And then all of a sudden they have to work virtually, and that elevator impact on our brain, I don't think that's what it's called, but that's what I'm calling it. Sure. That impact on our brain it just puts another layer of self-consciousness on us. We have to make certain concessions when we're on camera that we don't have to do when we're face to face. We have to contend with the lighting, the angle, lens distortion. It's the nature of being on camera. We have to contend with it. And so I began to really think about my business in terms of how can I give people the tools, specifically women, because our skin is more translucent the more that we age. We look more washed out than our male counterpart. We just simply do. Their skin is 25% thicker than ours is. And so as we age and as we begin to lose collagen, we are going to look like the corpse first before they do.
I did not know that. Why do men have 25% thicker skin?
Because of their testosterone levels. And men tend to age gradually, whereas our bodies start to lose collagen in our 20s. Collagen is just what gives your appearance that bounce back ability. We stop naturally producing collagen in our 20s. So that's why it becomes important for us to supplement with collagen boosting products like vitamin C. But then we experience a rush of rapid aging once we're perimenopausal and we experience menopause. Whereas they experience it gradually, we're blessed to experience it virtually all at once.
Oh, wow. We have it so good.
Yeah. And so here's the thing. Now that we are living in a virtual world and we are virtual girls, this is not going anywhere. Okay. Yeah. We have to get smart. We have to learn how to guide the eye of our viewer to our advantage. We want to draw the eye away from the tired, pale, washed out, dull looking self. And this is not because we want to be something that we're not. It's not because we're trying to give this airbrushed impression that we are perfect. In fact, the exact opposite. I think that as creative entrepreneurs, being authentic is key to your marketing. Do not be anything else other than authentic.
Yes, I love that.
But part of looking professional, looking like the authority, looking like the expert in your field, looking excited to be what you're talking about, is contending with a camera and lighting and angles and distortion that makes us look tired, dull, and washed out. I really started to focus on this woman. She wants to feel confident as a professional and as an entrepreneur, and she wants to attract people to her message. How can we guide the eye of our viewers to our advantage to draw attention to that message and to our brand movement and to the difference we're trying to make in the world? I realized very quickly, there's a much deeper need for this in terms of our own personal confidence, but in terms of how we're representing ourselves, our businesses, the sort of platform we are creating for our messages. That's what gets me really excited about. I love sitting with women specifically who are brand builders and who have ideas and passions and energies and going, okay, how do we get that to translate through all of your visual branding and all of your visual imagery? That's why I love what I do.
Oh, I love that message. And your reason for really doing it. Before we started recording, I was telling you about my experience just a couple of days ago with a branding photo session for my new website and my social media. And although I have done a lot of personal growth work to accept that I don't have the standard or what we have been taught is the standard body type or shape. Although I've done a lot of work on that, I had a meltdown essentially that morning as I got in front of the camera because I had seen the makeup. It was way heavier than anything I typically wear. And I really freaked out. Then I put on my clothes, and between the face and the clothing wasn't fitting quite how I wanted it to fit. I ended up having a breakdown. Before we even got started, my photographer, who is a good friend, said, what just happened here? Because
Right.
this is not how you arrived this morning. Like you were
Right.
just so energetic and bubbly, and now you are just zero energy. What
Yes.
happened?
Yes.
And that point of yours about how we look on camera definitely affects how we feel, how we look in general affects how we feel, the
Yes.
confidence that we feel. So
Yeah.
going into that, maybe I did myself a disservice of having somebody do my makeup who had never done my makeup before. So I didn't know what to expect. Um, and Salina had just taught me how to do makeup for camera. So I perhaps should have done my own makeup that day, but then I don't know if I really would have been, if it would have been strong enough for camera for the photos.
Yeah.
Because seeing what I saw after, in some of the photographs, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, it doesn't look like I'm just overly made up. And I asked my photographer, like, please tell me I am not going to look like this in my photos because this is not me.
Right.
And she assured me, no, it's fine.
Uh-huh.
I'm shooting you from over there. You need the color, the pop.
Sure.
And so,
Yeah.
yes. And I've seen some of the photos since then that we took. And so I know it's not that bad.
Yeah. But still, you had this moment of feeling like this is not me. And Sarah, I'm really glad that it was a still shoot experience, because think about if you had felt that way and you had to go do a virtual interview, or you had to go lead, you had to be a keynote and you felt that way, that this is not me. And that would have impeded the delivery of your message. And this is what we're trying to do, is attract people to your message of transformation. What can your brand, your product, your service do for them? I would love to see your pictures. I'm sure that they're beautiful. And your
Yes,
makeup,
I'm sure I will be happy to share them with you. I should
please.
hopefully have them sometime this week or next, and I'm excited.
And I love makeup artists, but I see this happen all the time. A person will get their makeup done and they will either A, love it, love how they look, but in the back of their mind thinking, how am I ever going to recreate this again when I
Right.
have to go do a video spot or a promo ad, or I have to do my social media live this week? I'm never going to be able to recreate this. So it's either that, or they feel the way that you felt and they
Mhm.
think, oh my gosh, this is not me. And then all of a sudden their confidence shrinks, therefore their authority submerges, and then they think, oh gosh, and they're self-conscious more than they're conscious of their audience and how they're going to deliver their message of transformation to their audience. I love makeup artists. They are gifted at what they do. But if
Yeah.
you're in a position of authority where you are the face of your brand, you almost have to like just put it in the job description. Let's just be objective about this. There are certain skills we need to be able to do our jobs well. Being able to recreate your look so that it consistently draws people to your message across all your media platforms is just a skill that you have to learn how to do for yourself, because consistency breeds trust. If someone looks at me and I've been completely done up, airbrushed,
Yeah.
in an ad, and then they see me on social media, even though they would probably not admit it because we're taught you shouldn't judge a book by its cover, the way the brain processes it is not consistent with that. That's suspicious. And we're working so hard with our marketing to grow that know, like, and trust, that we want to, as most as we can, provide a consistent experience across our platforms. And we can do that by using our makeup as a vehicle to build that trust and draw that attention to our message.
Absolutely love that message, Salina. It's exactly what we need to hear.
Mm,
So true. Oof.
excited about it too.
Oh my gosh. I am so happy to have you here today. This has been a really tremendous conversation. I've really enjoyed it. We could definitely keep going, but I know we both have other things to do today. Tell my audience where they can find you on the internet so they too can find out how to create their look in an authentic way.
Yes. Listen, if you can't tell, I love conversation. I am very people-y. So my favorite hangout is Instagram. So if you
Mhm.
go to Instagram, I am Salina underscore about face, and that's Salina, Salina underscore about face. And Sarah, I'm always DMing you and
Yeah.
voice, probably get my voice in your DMs. So if you want a quick chat, then that's where you can find me. Also, you can go to salinabeasley.co. If you go to salinabeasley.com, you're going to find the lifestyle blog that I wrote that I told you about.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it's like recipes and diaper stories, and which is great. But for
That's
this
great.
purpose, you're going to want to go to salinabeasley.co.
Okay.
I have created a free resource, and it is called the Guide to the Ultimate Makeup Bag Makeover. And in that, I didn't leave anything out. So it includes the 5 colors that every makeup bag should include, the ultimate makeup shopping list, and with highlighted items if you're a beginner, the makeup bag audit worksheet so you can clean out your collection and keep your color safe and gorgeous, and then the makeup replacement sheet for you to be able to track when you need to replace your makeup. So that is all there. If you go to salinabeasley.co, then you can snag that freebie, and I would love for you to get your hands on that. So yeah, please be
Great.
in touch.
Well, I can't wait for everyone to connect with you because you are just a glowing personality that I have really enjoyed getting to know, but you also have a lot to offer as far as this goes. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed what we did here.
Me too.
Ah,
Mwah, me too.
so good. So good.
Really.
So
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me to do this.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure.